Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Markus Dunk here, and today I'm sitting here with our awesome client, Davis. Davis Hummus. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the interview. I'm super excited to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's dive right into it. We're here in Morocco right now, and actually last month was one of your biggest months. So exactly how much money have you made last month?
It was the biggest actually, so 6.5K US.
6.5. Congratulations, man. That's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Tell us a little bit. Of course, today we want to learn more about your story. There are a lot of very interesting things that we have to talk about today.
Sure.
So I would say let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit. What have you done before we met? Before we get to know each other? Before you had the first call with me? Walk us through that. What have you done in terms of working? How were things back then?
Okay, so I've been working for Aldi, right? So I was a store manager there, meaning I was working early and late shifts. And I was pretty much taking care of the store, making sure the numbers were in order, taking care of staff, of course, giving them orders, but also working, right? So everything that my staff would do, I would do the same thing. So that was pretty much my picture. And for me, it wasn't any type of a bad job because I had the perfect mix between working physically, but also administrative work. But it was kept, right? So I would always put in 100% just for me to say, okay, I did everything I could.
Yeah.
But I was just being paid the same as everybody else, and there were people that were only putting 50% in. And of course, at some point, it makes you a little, I wouldn't say angry, but questioning everything.
Absolutely. So it was like a typical 9 to 5 almost, or was there any commuting that you did, or?
Yeah, sure. Half an hour drive every day. That was also one thing. I was the first store that they gave me that I was, you can say, managing. It's just a 10-minute drive. And at some point, because I was so good, they transferred me to another store, which was like triple the the distance that I had to go before. So they just tripled my drive time without...
Because you were performing good.
Because I was performing good. And I mean, they kind of asked me if I wanted to do that, and I said no, because of course it's just further away. My store was performing very good, and the store they wanted to put me in obviously wasn't performing as good. And I said no, and 2 weeks later they said, well, we don't really care what you say, we just transfer you there. And I just got the exact same money with just triple the driving time, and of course triple the gas as well.
Wow. Okay. So how long was that ago? Like, what are we talking? Like, when was that roughly?
Yeah, that was 3 years ago actually, when they transferred me to the store, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then what was like your thought process behind it? Like when you first found out about remote closing, like what was going through your mind back then? Actually, before you actually booked the call with me.
Right. So that was 2 years ago, right? Not even 2 years ago. So in March it's gonna be 2 years. And for me, I mean, I wouldn't say I was always on the lookout for something, but I was always feeling like there should be more, right? So I should be able to just dedicate more time into something that I like on my own terms, because I was always very ambitious. Also, I would be awake at night, like, okay, what can I do to get better, to make money? And you could always read books or something, but of course, in the long run, maybe it makes you money, but not in the shortcut. So when I found out about closing, for me, it was like, okay, this looks cool. I, at the beginning, didn't really get the idea behind it, right? But for me, it was like, okay, this sounds super interesting, and it sounds like, if it's really what I'm understanding, it sounds like it could be exactly what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. All right. So, fast forward now today, we're sitting here in beautiful Morocco at a hotel right now, having a good time. Your wife, your kids are here as well. I met them. Beautiful, beautiful family. And so what were some of the challenges that because for you, it's been 2 years, but there were like some big challenges that life was just throwing at you.
Yeah.
You trying to basically change your life. So,
You could say so, yeah.
Walk us a little bit through that, and what impact also then had the mentoring program helping you go through that and help you overcome these challenges.
Of course, for sure. So Maybe a little background information about us as a family. Yeah, so my wife Laura and me, we essentially started this program together, so she was part of your program as well.
Yep.
And at the point when we
Shout out to Laura.
at the point when we started this program, Laura was 8 months pregnant. We already had one daughter. We had one boxer dog, and we were about to adopt a foster child. So you could say we pretty much upgraded from one kid to three in like 1 month.
Wow.
And at the same time, we were 1 month out on starting to build our own house, which we had put everything in place already. And you could say we're pretty ambitious when it comes to achieving things. So
Yep.
we had a very strict time frame, also finishing the house and everything. And I remember back then perfectly, Laura's like, I don't believe it's a good idea to actually start the program right now. And I perfectly remember the first call that we had together. However, yeah, I mean, you said the same thing. Like, is there really any right time to do something? And at the
Yep.
end of the day, of course, there is never. Yeah, and looking back, if we wouldn't have started closing back then, we would never be where we are today. So fast forward 3 months into the program, or 2 months actually, we were diving into the content, reading the books, doing the assignments, role-playing as well, next to everything that was going on, right? Giving labor and everything. So I remember Laura was doing a role-play in hospital right before giving birth to our son. And
Wow.
I mean, yeah, talking about commitment, right?
Yes.
And then in June of 2021, while building the house, I cut off almost my entire forearm with a saw. So we have wood floor in the house, and I was cutting these floor panels with a saw. And because there was very little sleep, and as you can tell, very much work, and we were doing all that while still working full time at Aldi. Yeah, just stupid mistake. I wanted to grab one wooden panel that was falling down on the other side of the saw. I still had the saw in my hand, and I like faced right into the saw.
And you can still hear the...
You can see it here and here, pretty much, right? And well, as you can imagine, I my focus kind of shifted from making everything work to saving this arm.
Absolutely, yeah. I perfectly remember the call that we had when you were in the hospital and we had a conversation, and I was like, okay, we have to make sure your mindset doesn't slip into the wrong direction right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, let me tell you about the mindset.
All right.
So that's a very good point. I love that you bring it up because, for me, I mean, obviously, being totally frank, first thing you think when this happens, you're like, wow, okay, did this really just happen? And of course, well, at some point you realize, and also the pain kicks in. I didn't fade out. I don't know how that was manageable, but at the same time, I was just thinking, wow, this hand is gone, right? So I'm never gonna be able to drive a motorcycle again. Never gonna be able to bench press again. Whatever you name it. And then ambulance, they arrived very, very quickly, I think like 4 minutes. And the doctor couldn't really tell me because it was just an assistant doctor. Mm-hmm. And then the emergency doctor, he arrived and he just asked me like, can you feel this? Can you feel that? They touched my fingers and everything, and I could feel everything. Mm-hmm. And he was like, okay, so we're pretty sure we can save the hand. And they flew me to a military hospital.
They flew you there?
Yeah, helicopter.
You got a free helicopter ride?
Yeah, you could say so.
Wow.
And then arriving at the hospital, so I was already pretty confident when he told me, okay, so I think we can save the hand, because I believe they wouldn't tell you something like this just to keep you happy.
Yeah.
And then also arriving there, the surgeon that performed my first surgery, because there was 3 altogether, she said, pretty confident we can save the hand. And I remember perfectly at that point, my mindset was like, okay, so I will never ever have more time than right now to make closing work, to transition out of the full-time job, and to just give this my all, and not having to go to work, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you basically saw the opportunity in the challenge and
100%.
You leaned into it,
Yep.
so to speak.
Definitely. And the call that you said, that was one day after, right? So it was obviously emergency surgery and stuff like that. And they couldn't really repair all my bones immediately. So everything was kind of loose in my arm for the next 3 weeks. And you and me, we had a conversation, and I remember what you said. So it was like, Okay, now we just have to adjust the plan because the
strategy.
original plan we mapped out was out the window.
Yep.
And then, yeah, of course, from that point on, we just changed the strategy. And yeah, I mean, I would have said it worked out pretty good.
I would agree so. I would agree so. You were holding up very, very well, and you really turned it over to make an advantage out of that situation.
Yeah.
Which also comes back, if it would have just been like a course and it would just be like you having a video to learn how to do this, and there was no one that you could really speak to,
Yeah.
like in situations like this, that if life gets in the way, and that happens sometimes, we hope that don't happen, but sometimes it happens, and then
Yeah.
it's always good if you have someone that you can just hit up and speak to, and like you said,
100%.
readjust the plan.
Yeah.
Right. So what exactly are you doing now? So you're closing, I mean, who you closing with, who you working with? Do you want to share that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, on one last note, what you just said, I really want to add something there. So,
Yeah, sure.
just for everyone to understand, so what you do in your program, obviously it's super important, is you work with your clients until they actually getting results.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, of course not for the next 10 years, but also if something happens, which obviously in my case was the case, then you readjust the time frame. You say, it's like if life gets in the way, we understand that can happen, and then we can just see how we can adjust. And if that wouldn't have been the case, then also for me that I wouldn't be where I am today. On that note, yeah. But yeah, of course, I love to share that. So right now I'm closing for your program.
Oh, what? Surprise, yeah.
And yeah, so it's been 6 months now. Yeah, now it's January. Since June we're working together, and obviously that gives me the chance to not only change my life, but also change the life of other people, and witness their progress firsthand, you could say.
Absolutely. So did you start directly working together with me, or
No.
like, do you want to give a little bit background?
Yeah.
You don't have to go into any names specifically, but like, what other office have you been on? What have you done? Like, tell us a little bit about that. So, if you're watching this, you get a better idea on what types of offers, are there.
Yeah, I think it's also super important because you could get the impression that everyone joining your program at some point will be working with you, which of course is not the case, right? So for me, when I started, so again, obviously with the surgery and everything, they postponed the whole process. But when I started closing, that was in November 2021, and that's super interesting because what you always do in your program also is you give people an understanding and a framework of how to actually reach someone to work with. But on the other hand, you also show them how to set themselves up so they can be reached by people that are looking for closers. And that was
They're
what happened for me.
independent. That's
Exactly.
a big thing for me.
Yeah, 100%. So I was actually being reached out by someone that was willing to work with me. Yeah, so it was a German company. They were based in Dubai, and they were helping people to set up a coaching business. And they already had a closer. However, he was having some struggles after having COVID. So with his lungs, and he had some issues. He couldn't really speak for a longer time. And obviously, as a closer, it's not really an advantage.
Yep.
So yeah, we started to work together in November, and I worked with that company for I think 4 months until I actually transitioned into another offer where we were doing automation services. So we were setting up, you could say something like a Shopify store for people, but they wouldn't really need to put in the work, right? So people could just invest, and it was a done for you offer. So yeah, they just invest, and then the program.
How much
does
was that
everything
offer?
for you. There were two different options. So one was 35K, yeah, and the other option there was a trucking automation. Yeah, so that was a 100K offer.
100K offer. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Let's switch gears here a little bit. So, thinking about our community, the mentoring program, I mean, you're super active in there. Everyone in the community,
Yep.
pretty much. So, what was the biggest thing that the mentoring program helped you, or that you got out of the mentoring program? Like, what was the most valuable thing for you now looking back?
Well, if I could say it in one sentence, I always like to compare it to the movie The Matrix. So for everyone that has seen that, in this scene where Morpheus gives Neo the choice of the two pills, right, red or blue,
Yep.
and you can pick. And for me, I would say you you choose, and once you're in, this whole new world opens up,
Yes.
and you can never go back, which is a good thing because it shows you how much more opportunities out there. I mean, we're literally sitting in Morocco in January, and right now, I mean, Laura and I, we were thinking about extending this vacation to actually not going home but going to Dubai, and we can perfectly do that because we're
Yes.
both working on our laptops.
With
and
the
that's-
kids.
With the kids.
Take the kids. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's pretty much it. So I would say the biggest takeaway for me is just how much more life you can get out of life if you really put your head to it.
Also, like working remotely, having the opportunities, and
Yes.
also seeing behind it, or like getting red pilled.
100%.
So to
Getting
speak.
plugged out, you could
Yeah,
say.
yeah, getting unplugged.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Now, I mean, of course, you're now working remotely. You making more than you did in your 9 to 5 job back then.
Yep.
So, what do people around you say about that switch in lifestyle, or do you even tell them, or your friends, your families, old friends? I don't know. Do you want to share a little bit about that? How is that going? Like,
Of course. So that's a super interesting question, and I would say it's a double-edged sword. So there's a lot of new people that we met throughout this journey that have the same mindset. Obviously, you just said it, right? There's a lot of people also in this program that became very good friends over the years. I mean, there's also a reason why we're here in Morocco. So we're visiting
Yep.
our good friend Ismail, who's living here, who's also part of your program. Way longer.
we're gonna blend
before-
in some pictures. We had some great fun. We were driving like buggies in the desert and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So
And he started way earlier than I did, right? So that's one thing, right? So we just expanded our horizon. We have had so many great relationships that we've established ever since.
yeah,
And there were other relationships that aren't as they were before, but not because I would say there's any bad blood or something, but just because we just elevated ourselves. And for some people, it's just very hard to understand that this is a way of living and also a way of being able to make money online.
yep,
Yeah, without how do you say that? Doing something illegal, right?
Yes.
Which is what a lot of people think this is. Or if you say, it's also very hard to explain it to Germans. Yeah, because they're like, okay, so what are you doing? And you don't want to say we're in sales because for German people it's like, oh, he's selling something, so that's bad,
yeah.
right? And that's absolutely not what closing is. I think
Actually, let's
that's-
talk about this real quick. I want to stop you there.
Sure.
So we might gonna go a little bit over time, but if you're still watching this, that might be valuable. So, what would you say? Like, what is the difference between closing and sales? Because there might be someone sitting there right now, seeing this for the first time, like, yeah, this is sales, or is it not, or what is it?
Yeah, I think it's super important. So, I mean, if you're watching this and you're German or you've been, I would say, I don't know, programmed or made believe that selling is bad, then there's a whole different side to that. So if you look at sales in a way that there's a lot of people selling you stuff that you don't need, that is not sales, right? So the difference between sales and closing, for me, the main difference is with closing, at the end of the day, what you're trying to find out is there's someone that has a situation. I don't like to call it issue or problem because most likely it's
A
a
challenge
situation,
or a situation,
Challenge,
yeah.
Yeah. So they want to make a change. They want to get to a different level, anything. And what they're trying to figure out is how to get there. However, most likely they can't figure this out on their own, right? And with closing, you're just trying to understand where are they at? Most importantly, where do they want to go? And then can we actually help them getting there, right? Can we make a plan and put a structure together to help them achieve what they're looking for? And if not, that's perfectly fine. But at least they have clarity about how they could get there, and that they most likely are not going to get there by doing the same things all over again that they've been doing, because otherwise they would already be there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What about, like, do you have to cold call people who are not interested in this, or how does that, like, how do these people who have these challenges, how do they end up in your calendar, or
Right.
like, if you're closer?
Yeah, that's a very good point as well. So here, the most important thing is with closing, with high ticket closing, you're not cold calling anyone, right? So what that means is all these, I would just call them individuals that are looking for a solution. Could be anything, right?
For example?
Let's just say somebody's trying to get in shape, and he's been trying that for the last couple of years. However, it never really worked out. And if we're super frank, there's tons of workout plans on the internet.
Yeah.
There's tons of meal plans on the internet, and everyone knows that to just be in shape, the only thing you have to do is work out and eat healthy, right?
Yeah.
However,
If it would just be the information, everyone would be in shape. Everyone would be a
100%.
multimillionaire. Like,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and well, if you're trying to find out how to actually get there, because there must have been something missing, you would most likely try and look for somebody that can help you get there. In this case, a fitness coach, right?
yeah,
And if you do that, if you go on Instagram, Facebook, Google, whatever, you're going to find a lot of coaches that you most likely could work together with. However, of course, you don't really know, can they really help me? Do they understand me? Are they understanding my challenges? Because everyone is individual at the end of the day. And then most likely what you would like to do is talk to them on a personal level. And what all these people are doing, all these coaches, is they're taking care of their clients.
yeah,
Meaning, most likely, they don't really have time to sit down with you and have a chat about whether or not you should be working with them.
yes,
And this is what a closer does. So at the end of the day, you're taking away time that they would need to invest as a coach to make sure whoever jumps on a call is a good fit, but also that the business they're having this call with is a good fit for them.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
so-
that's put very well.
Yeah, and coming back to your original question, these people then put their names and email addresses somewhere and they book the call with you because they're interested in working with the company.
Yeah.
And
So
they-
the company is doing the marketing,
100%.
and then the closers just basically opens up. You open up your calendar, you know,
Yeah.
and then people who are interested, they want to learn more. They maybe have a few questions about the offer or whatever that might be.
Exactly.
They book in a call, and then we figure out, hey, can we really help that person or not? If so, great. If not, also great.
Yeah.
Then
No
at
hard
least they have
feelings.
clarity. Yeah,
100%.
exactly. Cool. Now coming back to actually you and your story, what does your day-to-day look like now? I mean, we're here in beautiful Morocco.
Yeah.
The ocean is right there. Like, what does your day look like now with your kids, with your wife? Tell us about that.
Sure. So, coming back to what you just said, so they schedule a call in your calendar, which you set up however you like. Okay, so that means for me personally, I only work in the mornings and in the evenings. So, most likely I do 1 or 2 slots that are free in the morning. So from, let's say, 6 to 8, because before I always like to get a workout in, so from 5 to 6. And then after 8, I'm off until 7 in the evening. So I can pretty much do whatever I want, spend time with the kids. That's the most important thing for me.
How old are they again?
Mia is 3.5, so she turns 4 in August, and Jace is almost 2. He turns 2 in March.
Yeah, so little kids, and you actually see them growing up, taking their first steps.
Yeah.
You are
that's-
there when they fall and cry.
That's a perfect example. I mean,
Yeah.
with Mia, I was missing the first steps because I was working.
Yeah,
Yeah, and with Jace, I was there because I was not working.
yeah, yeah. You have an awesome family, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so then I do calls in the evening. Most likely I do one at 7, and then we have a dinner break. So 8 to 9 is always dinner, and then from 9 to 12 is when I do calls, and that's it.
Awesome. Great, cool. Let me check if there's one more question I would have before we actually wrap things up. Like, what would you say to someone who is not 100% sure if, hey, is remote closing, is this for me, is this not for me? Maybe someone's considering booking in a call, but they're like, I don't know, or they maybe already had a call, maybe even with you. What would you say to someone, who's kind of on the edge or watching this right now?
So the thing is this, right? At the end of the day, what is super important is there's a lot of people that want to make a change, but they're not really sure whether or not they should make the jump or anything like that. So there's a couple of things to it, right? First of all, what's super important is, I mean, you can see it in my story perfectly. What you do in your business, and I could say what we do here, is we help people to make a slow transition, meaning you don't have to drop your full-time job or your financial security, whatever it is. You can still build this on the side. Yeah, kind of like on your own terms. If you have at least a certain amount of time to put into this per week, we can figure out a plan to make it happen. That's one thing. Which comes to the next thing, and that is people believe that this is, or what a lot of people are looking for is like a quick fix, right?
Oh, yeah.
Making money, I don't know, being a millionaire in 30 days. And I'm not saying that is impossible, because I'm 100% certain it is. But with closing, you also have to put in some work. Yeah, so it's not rocket science, but also it's intense, okay? Because most likely this is a lot of also personal development that is involved
It
here.
goes hand in hand with personal
Goes hand in hand,
development.
100%. So I would say closing is a perfect mirror of where you were at.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is, I mean, at the end of the day, if you book in a call, there's nothing to lose. At least at the end of the day, you have clarity. And what I always like to say in calls that I have as well, if you don't trust us or Marcus or closing, whatever it is, at least to an extent, I would never advise you to work with us. Because at the end of the day, this relationship needs to be based on trust,
Yeah.
right? We need to trust you to put in the work, but you also need to trust us that we're legit and that we're actually helping you and putting your success first. And,
Needs to be a win-win.
100%.
Yeah. Now on that note, because this is something that I hear a lot as well, I'm sure you hear that too a lot, is there some of you out there, you work very, very, very hard, right? And you feel like you're not getting anywhere. Or some of you then are betting on like some type of a meme coin to blow up and, you know, almost like winning the lottery. Like,
Yep.
what can you tell us about that? Like, what do you think about that? What would you tell someone who's like, oh, but I could just, you know, go into cryptocurrency, or
Yeah.
maybe someone who's working very hard, but they feel they're not fairly compensated?
I had actually had a call last night, and that kind of like goes into that. It's pretty interesting. So the person that I call with is he's making good money, right? He has a good job. However, he's like, it's not really in my control to what I do here. I can't really have a bigger impact and stuff like that. So obviously he's afraid of giving up that security.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, let's say you have a good job, right? You're making good money, and you're thinking like, you know, I would really love to do something else, but I really don't want to give up the security. So what is the security sense? What happens if your boss, let's say you're working in a company in America, you have nothing like a 4 weeks notice. It doesn't matter how long you work in that company. So if your boss comes to you tomorrow and says, hey, you're being laid off for whatever reason, we don't need your position anymore, the company doesn't have the money to pay you, could be anything. What happens to your security? It's just gone, right?
It's a false sense of security.
Even if you have money in the bank, that's also at some point going to be gone.
Yeah.
So with closing, what this is at the end of the day is a skill. And once you have acquired that, no one can take it away from you.
Hashtag financial confidence.
100%. Yeah. So financial freedom is awesome. Yeah, but what I always like to ask is, what is your figure of financial freedom? Like, when are you actually financially free? And if you're financially confident, you just wake up in the morning and you know there's always going to be another deal that you can close, another problem that you can fix for someone that really needs your help to do so.
Yep.
And why wouldn't they then be happy to pay you a significant amount of money because you fixed their problem, which they can't do on their own? So coming back to your question, I'm not saying crypto or Amazon FBA, whatever, doesn't work, because I'm 100% sure all these things do. But there's a lot of outside factors.
You're betting, like if you do, for example, something like closing, or you're working on yourself, you're building a skill set, you're betting on yourself. If you're someone
100%.
who's a hard worker, again, this is not a magic pill. This is like not a quick fix or something like that. It's the most fundamental business skill that is out there, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a hard worker, if you're putting in the work, you're betting on yourself, you know, I would always prefer that over just betting on some type of meme coin project, because it's completely outside of your control.
Yes.
If you're working hard anyways, like, why not bet on yourself? And you had it in your job. You said at the beginning of our interview, where you were, you know, you were getting like promoted, or you work your way up, so to speak, in the corporate world, and then they make you drive 30 minutes more or whatever, you know? So it kind of backfired on you.
100%.
Right?
100%. And what you just said is so valuable. So there's a lot of outside factors that you can't control. Yeah. So what if the economy goes down and your company that you're working for, it just doesn't exist anymore, right? It's not in your control. You can work as hard as you want. You can do nothing about that. And it's the same thing with a lot of business models. Let's look at, I don't know, drop shipping, crypto. Like, can you control the market? No. Can you control what you put in? Yes, but where does the money that you put in come from? Yeah. So it's the same thing at the end of the day. With closing, you're betting on yourself. And of course, it's scary to an extent, because you actually have to do something.
Yeah.
Right? Which for a lot of people that are just getting by in a 9 to 5 and just floating through life, it could be scary. but for the people that actually want to make a change and get
This
to
is not for everyone.
yeah, 100%.
It's for the right people, you know,
100%.
who want to bet on themselves.
Yeah.
Who want to take a leap of faith.
Yeah, and
who are hardworking.
who want to take a responsibility for their own life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can bet on yourself. You know, you can always go out there into the marketplace. You can close a business owner on working with you if you're a good closer. Again, you close the business owner on working with you. That's what we teach here, right?
Yeah.
And then there was one more thing that I just wanted to bring up. It just slipped my mind again. Then it wasn't that important, I guess.
No worries. Let me add one more thing.
Sure.
Maybe it comes back to your mind. So what you just said is super important. So this isn't for everyone, right? And we're not meaning that in a kind of bad way to like say, hey, maybe this is not for you. But what it comes down to at the end of the day, sometimes you get the question, I'm sure you get that too, like how many people are actually successful with this, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing with going to the gym, right? We all know that guy that is going to the gym every day, and after 5 years of doing that, he still looks the same, yeah? So what he has is, he has resilience. He's showing up every day. And that's great. So if you don't quit, you're automatically going to get better, but at the same time, you also... It's a start. It's a start, right? But first of all, if you don't quit, you can't fail. You're automatically going to get better. It's just the way it is. And at the same time, if you have someone that shows you how to improve and how to leverage your time, because he said working hard.
Yeah.
It's not about working hard, right? You can work 100 hours a week and not really getting anywhere. And you can
work on the wrong things in the wrong vehicle.
100%. And you can work very, very smart. So we had that example yesterday. You could go to the gym for 3 hours every day, not getting anywhere. Or you could make it efficient, do a 30-minute workout, and you're there.
Yeah. And shortcut with someone who can help you doing that, et cetera, right?
100%.
Personal trainer. Cool. Yeah. Is there anything else, Davis, that you want to bring up, that you want to share, that you want to mention before we wrap things up?
Good question. I would just say, at the end of the day, for everyone that is seeing this, and I can 100% understand if you've been in this system for a very long time, in the matrix, in corporate world, whatever you want to call it, being programmed, it might sound like, hey, is this really legit? Is this really real? Is it that easy?
It sounds too good to be true. That's something what we hear as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like, why, if it's so easy, why is not everyone doing that?
Yeah.
Or isn't this like a bubble that's just going to explode and it's going to go away? Like, closing is everywhere. It's not only in business, it's in relationships, it's everywhere. So it's
communication. At the end of the day.
100%.
How do you speak with your wife, your kids?
Yeah.
And kids are good closers.
Yeah,
they want
are.
that chocolate. You know, they're very good in closing their parents on whatever they want.
They are.
Right?
And if you tell them something, they'd be like, why? And then you explain it and they'd be like, okay, but why?
Yeah.
Right?
They're asking the right questions.
Yeah, so they're really good in putting pressure back on you. But what I would say is just sales is everywhere, and without sales, there is no business, right? If Coca-Cola didn't have any kind of marketing and sales, we wouldn't be drinking Coca-Cola. That's just how it is.
I just remembered what I wanted to say, what I wanted to ask. So now we're basically in a recession. It's not a secret, everyone watching this probably knows about that.
Yep.
The world's going to a recession or is already in a recession. So when are good closers more in demand and in need when times are good or when times are bad? Think about it. A business, they need to make revenue, they need to make an income. It's almost like the oxygen. Revenue is the oxygen of the business. So question to you, like when do businesses need close? When times are good or when times are bad? What do you think?
Well, question back to everybody else. I mean, what do you guys think? Is it
put in the comments?
Is it like super important to have someone that is good in sales and that is actually bringing in revenue for your company if the company's doing very well anyways? Or is it really important if the company is about to lose revenue, everything is going down, you're really in need of some cash flow, right?
When are you more valuable as a good closer?
100%.
Right?
And then that's also coming back to the question, like, if you're good at what you're doing, which again, you're automatically gonna be improving if you don't quit, you're always gonna get better, you're never gonna be out of work. Because why would a company let you go if you're actually helping them to have more clients, to fulfill more people's needs, and to make more revenue?
You're providing value.
100%.
That's how money is generated in the marketplace. You're providing value to the marketplace and get recompensated for that. So, I think these are some great words to wrap it up. Now, again, super great that we had you on here for a quick chat, a quick interview. I hope you enjoyed it there as well. thank you so much for your time. Now, if you're still
course.
watching this, if you want to see more, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. What do you think? When are closes more needed? When times are good? When times are bad? And yeah, I see you in the next one. Take care.